Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Ali Hassan. Today we are going to discuss the topic of deaf child. Children with profound, that is more than 90 decibel hearing loss, or those having total deafness and fail to develop speech are termed as deaf or deaf mute or deaf and dumb. The period from birth to 5 years of life is critical for the development of speech and language. Therefore, there is need for early identification and assessment of hearing loss and early rehabilitation in infants and children. It was observed that children whose hearing loss was observed and managed before 6 months of age had higher scores of vocabulary, better expressive and comprehensive language skills than those diagnosed and managed after 6 months of age. Well, the deaf child can develop this deafness because of some congenital or non-congenital causes. The congenital causes can be further differentiated as genetic or non-genetic. In genetics, genetic causes can be syndromal or non-syndromal. What are the causes of congenital sensorineural deafness? There can be hereditary causes or they can be acquired secondary to some other pathologies. The hereditary causes can present as deafness at birth or later in childhood. In both cases, there might be deafness alone or this condition may be associated with some syndrome. The secondary intrauterine diseases which can cause sensorineural deafness include infections, particularly due to torch infection like rubella, cytomegalovirus, toxoplasmosis, and congenital syphilis. These infections cause maldevelopment of fetus and resulting in sensorineural deafness. In addition to this, use of ototoxic drugs by mother, metabolic disorders, example maternal diabetes mellitus, and perinatal disorders like hypoxia, hyperbilirubinemia, premature delivery, and low birth weight all can result in development of sensorineural deafness in a child. What are the different causes which result in congenital conductive hearing loss? The hereditary causes which result in external and middle ear abnormalities include can present at birth. Example: Apert syndrome, Crouzon's disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome, and Perry-Robin syndrome. Or these might appear later in childhood due to osteogenesis imperfecta or otosclerosis. The congenital disorders which predispose to blue ear, that is serous otitis media, are cystic fibrosis, cleft palate, Down syndrome, and Cartaginer syndrome. Other conditions which can result in development of conductive hearing loss are congenital cholesteatoma, fibrous dysplasia, and golden heart syndrome. The term congenital means existing at birth. Congenital deafness may be sensorineural, conductive, or mixed, and may occur in isolation or with other congenital syndromes. There is no defect in the speech producing apparatus. The main defect is deafness. Sensorineural deafness may be a hereditary degenerative deafness in which there is progressive loss of hearing in subjects with a previous normal cochlea in both structure and function. Different syndromes can result in hearing loss. They can be autosomal recessive or autosomal dominant. The autosomal recessive syndromes like Penrod syndrome, it is characterized by sensorineural hearing loss and goiter. The Usher syndrome, there is retinitis pigmentosa and sensorineural hearing loss. In Jervell and Langhans-Nielsen syndrome, the patient has sensorineural hearing loss, and in addition to that, there is prolonged QT interval on ECG. Raffson's disease comprises of retinitis pigmentosa, cerebellar ataxia, peripheral neuropathy, and sensorineural hearing loss. In Klippel-Feil syndrome, there is short neck, spina bifida, canal atresia, along with mixed hearing loss. The autosomal dominant conditions include Waardenburg syndrome. In Waardenburg syndrome, there is telecanthus pigment disorders along with sensorineural hearing loss. The Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome has hypoplasia of the malar bones, maxilla, and mandible with microtia or multiple external and inner ear abnormalities. In Perry-Robin syndrome, there is hypoplastic mandible, cleft palate, glossoptosis with external middle and inner ear deformities. The Crouzon's disease is characterized by hypoplastic mandible and maxilla, parrot beak nose, craniostenosis, and exophthalmos associated with external and middle ear abnormalities. In Apert syndrome, this congenital fixation of stapes footplate, acrocephaly, syndactyly, cleft palate, saddle nose deformity, and maxillar hypoplasia. And in Van der Hoef syndrome, there is fragile bone, blue sclera, otosclerosis, and deafness. The four congenital abnormalities of the cochlea and often occur as a component of hearing syndromes, which are Mickel's deformity, most severe dysplasia with agenesis of labyrinth and total sensorineural deafness. In Mondini's dysplasias, only basal coil of the cochlea is present and the semicircular canals may be absent. There are islands of residual hearing, especially in the high tones. In Bing Sidman dysplasia, the bony labyrinth is normal, but there is maldevelopment of membranous labyrinth. In Shabish dysplasia, bony labyrinth is normal, but the stria vascularis has alternating regions of aplasia and hypoplasia with few hair cells, and the saccule is collapsed. Hence, its synonym is cochleosacral dysgenesis. Hearing loss is severe in this condition. The congenital conductive hearing loss can be because of external and middle ear anomalies, which are classified into major, minor aplasia, and major aplasia associated with aphasia. How would you evaluate a deaf child? Finding the cause is very important. This requires detailed history of prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal causes. Detailed family history should be taken. Physical examination and investigations, depending on the causes suspected, are advised. When would you suspect a child is having hearing loss? If the child sleeps through loud noises, unperturbed, or does not startle to loud sounds. He does not develop speech at 1 to 2 years of age. The newborn is at risk if there is no spontaneous respiration for 10 minutes or hypotonia for 2 hours. If there is family history of hearing loss. The use of ototoxic drugs by the mother during pregnancy, low birth weight, and child with stigmata of syndromal deafness, that is, in family there are patients or children who have syndromes. Bilirubin level exceeds 20 mg/cent, or if there was neonatal meningitis, then these children are at high risk of developing hearing loss. What are the different assessment tests or investigations? There are screening tests like arousal test and auditory response cradle. In arousal test, high frequency narrowband noise is presented for 2 seconds to the infant when he is in light sleep. A normal hearing infant can be aroused twice when 3 such stimuli are present to him. In auditory response cradle, this is a screening device for newborns where baby is placed in a cradle and his behavior in terms of trunk and limb mobility, head jerk, and respiration, that is the response to the auditory stimulation, are monitored by transducers. These screening tests are performed in a child who is newborn up till 6 months of age. Then there is behavioral observation audiometry performed from 0 to 6 months. In this test, the auditory signals presented to infant produce change in behavior. Example, altering cessation of an activity, widening of eyes, or facial grimacing. Moro's reflex is one of them and consists of sudden movement of limb and extension of head in response to sounds of 80 to 90 decibel. In cochleopalpebral reflex, the child responds by a blink to a loud sound. In cessation reflex, an infant stops activity or starts crying in response to a sound of 90 decibel. Then there is distraction technique. This is performed for a child of in between 6 to 18 months. The child at this age turns his head to locate the source of sound. In this test, the child is seated in his mother's lap. An assistant distracts the child's attention while the examiner produces a sound from behind or from one side to see if the child tries to locate it. Sounds used at high frequencies: rattle, low frequency hum, whispered sounds like S, xylophones, and warble tones or narrow band noises can be used. Then there is conditioning techniques. This includes visual reinforced audiometry and play audiometry. Visual reinforced audiometry is the investigation of choice for a child in between 9 to 36 months. That is 9 months to 3 years. It is a conditioning technique in which child is trained to look for an auditory stimulus by turning his head. The behavior is reinforced by a flashing light or an animated toy. The auditory stimulus is delivered by headphones, or better still by insert earphones, which are accepted better and are also lightweight. In play audiometry, this is the investigation of choice for a child from 2 years to 5 years of age. The child is conditioned to perform an act such as placing a marble in a box, putting a ring on a post, or putting a plastic block in a bucket each time he hears a sound signal. Each correct performance of the act is reinforced with praise, encouragement, or reward. Then there are objective tests. The objective tests include brain stem evoked response audiometry, impedance audiometry, autoacoustic emission, and heart rate audiometry. The objective test can be used as screening test as well. It is essential to establish whether the hearing loss is prelingual or postlingual if you want to manage this patient. The aims of rehabilitation are development of speech and language, adjustment in society, and useful employment. Now, what are different faculties of a hearing impaired person which can be utilized for receptive and expressive skills in communication? These include development of oral speech, and the auditory faculties like hearing aid and cochlear implants can be used. The tactile faculties like vibrotactile aids can be used. The patient can develop written language so that he can communicate. Then there are visual faculties, which will include learning of written language, lip reading, and sign language. Vibrotactile aid is a mechanical instrument attached to the head near the ears that helps individuals who are deaf to detect and interpret sounds through their sense of touch. It is called a vibrotactile aid because it serves as an aid by permitting a person to feel the vibrations, in this case of sounds. Now here's a small battery. This is basically vibrotactile aid is a small battery powered instrument that can help a deaf person understand sounds by allowing the user to feel the unique pattern of vibrations present in every sound. These are different hearing aids. Here you can see in the canal type of hearing aid, behind the ear type of hearing aid, and this is bone anchored hearing aid. In addition to hearing aids, cochlear implants can be used. The cochlear implant has an external component and internal component. The external component has a microphone and speech processor along with the transmitter, and the inner component comprises of a receiver and an electrode array. Here is the electrode array which is inserted into the cochlea and can be seen through a radiograph. The internal component comprising of the receiver and the electrode array which enters into the cochlea. You can see The microphone and speech processor. The speech processor can be at the level of ear, or it can be a body-worn type of speech processor. The signals from here are transmitted to the transmitter. Here it is labeled as microphone. This is not the microphone, this is the transmitter. The transmitter sends the signal to the receiver, which is deep to the skin and subcutaneous tissue on the bone. And from this, here the signals are transmitted to the electrode array, which is directly present in the cochlea and which stimulates the cochlear nerve. So, how a cochlear implant works? A cochlear implant is a device that turns sound waves into electrical signals. It can help many people with severe hearing loss regain hearing. A microphone picks up the sound waves and transmits them to a speech processor, a miniature computer that turns sound into digitalized electrical signals. These signals travel to a receiver placed beneath the skin, and from there to electrodes that have been surgically implanted in the cochlea, a part of the inner ear. In the cochlea, the signals stimulate the auditory nerve, which carries the signal to the brain, and the brain interprets the electrical signals as sounds. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Till the next lecture, Allah Hafiz.